Welcome back to the Supply and Demand Pro Trader series. In this series, I teach you the same supply and demand strategy I use on every single trade I enter. If there's one trading rule that I've never defied in my 11 years of trading, it would be: don't buy unless we're in a discount, and don't sell unless it's a premium. The art of figuring out where we are in terms of discounts and premiums is called supply and demand. This is lesson 6. Today, I'm going to give you the quick reference rules you need to quickly identify supply and demand zones. I'll also explain how candles can look manipulative if you miss their context. And finally, I will sit down behind the screen and show you how I detect the zones on a live chart. But first, let's have a quick previously on supply and demand series. We discussed the 4 supply and demand formations: the rally-based drop and the drop-based drop. Those are the supply formations. And then we have the rally-based rally and the drop-based rally. Those are the demand formations. We also discussed how the leg out should be an explosive candle. And you can already tell how the base consists of mainly indecisive candles. Very straightforward stuff so far. Alright, let's start our lesson today by taking a look at these cards. This is everything we have learned so far in zone identification on the lower time frame, simplified into a couple of rules. These are really important because every time you'll identify a demand or a supply zone, you will be using these cards from memory. Let's start with the leg in. Leg in is the price action prior to the base. It is made of a decisive or an explosive candle, and it can be a rally or drop depending on the formation. The base is found in between a leg in and a leg out. The base is made of one or multiple indecisive candles, and this is the origin of imbalance, the area where we are going to find the unfilled orders. The leg out has to be an explosive candle. The rule for an explosive candle is: number 1, the body has to be bigger than 70% of the entire range, and more importantly, number 2, the candle has to be abnormally bigger than the previous few candles. Because the sheer size of the candle is more important than the body to range relationship. There's also an alternative rule, which is that the leg out can consist of abnormally bigger candles that are decisive if they are followed by another decisive candle. Now this part might be a brain teaser, but I wanted to include it because it gets rid of some confusion when it comes to the candle types. Let's call this science meeting experience or science meeting reality. Let us look at the first example here. The first candle highlighted in yellow is theoretically a decisive candle, if not even an explosive candle, because the body is 100% and there are no wicks. However, in reality, this is more like an indecisive candle because the range of the candle is extremely small in context. Also, the second candle here highlighted in yellow could be decisive based on the body to range ratio. However, given the small range of the candle, it would be an indecisive candle. In example 4, you can very much see the difference between 2 decisive candles. The first one would be rather indecisive because of the small total range, while the second candle could be explosive because it's also abnormally bigger than the previous candles. Now, I don't want to go into each and every example because I think you understand the point I'm trying to make. When looking at candles, it is always important to look at the candles in context to the surrounding candles, instead of only looking at each and every candle individually. This is where experience meets science in trading. This is where the fun starts, because now we are finally qualified to start drawing zones. Please remember, there's a 3-step process that we follow to identify and draw zones. The first step is always to identify the leg out. Step 2 is to identify the leg in, followed by the last step of identifying the base. Alright, I think we are ready to work on some real-life applications and drawing some zones. Now we will go through the entire process of identifying and drawing zones on a live chart. As you can see here, it's August the 13th. roughly 2 p.m. Dubai time, and I'm looking at the Nasdaq futures chart. I try to find a live chart with some recent manipulative candles to further explain this concept. I know when it's a live chart, it may seem like a completely different story, but it's not that different really once you understand the context. I will go through that again anyway. So, we will start at current price of the Nasdaq. By the way, we do this example based on a 4-hour chart. You can do this literally on any time frame. Now we go and we will find 3 supply zones, and then afterwards we will find 3 demand zones. Now we will go up and left, and obviously we cannot cross candles. And then we continue to go up, and then we see this massive explosive candle here. It's so obvious that it catches your eye and you immediately recognize institution, I got you. This candle can only be caused by an institution and not by retailers. So this is my leg out candle, explosive. Look at the range body ratio. And even more important, it's abnormally bigger than the previous candles. So this has to be my leg out candles. What about the candles next to the explosive candle? Indecisive, indecisive. And then look at this. This looks like the green candle here looks like an explosive candle. But, well, body range ratio, the rule is met. But obviously the second rule, which is more important, tells us the rule is not met because it's not normally bigger, obviously, than the previous candles. So I can use it in my base. So it's an indecisive candle in a way because it's very small and it can be caused by retailers. So this is where science basically meets experience. Then the next candle is another indecisive candle, a clear indecisive candle, and then the next one is a decisive candle. So here I can put the 4 candles in my base. Now I draw the wider version, proximal distal line. I use my yellow box to identify the imbalance. I remove that current price horizontal line, and then I move on. Now I continue to go to the left, and then immediately, boom, I see here another explosive candle followed by another explosive candle. I have an indecisive candle followed by a decisive candle. Now look at this. I will tease now something really interesting. If I draw the wider version here and put the yellow box around the proximal distal line, I see that zone already worked out. Price moved away, came back, hit the zone, and then price crashed from here. So that zone is already used. What we would call it's not fresh anymore. So it's not a valid supply zone here anymore. And this is one of our zone qualifiers. Zone qualifiers I will cover later on in the course. Now, what I do usually, if I see that, and again, this is where my experience plays a very vital role. When I see that entire shape or structure, that I see this inverted U shape. So what I do then is, hey, I see still an imbalance here. I change the time frame. Now from a 4-hour, I move to an 8-hour chart. So now you see the entire chart, the picture changed a little bit. And now we can identify here clearly a decisive candle, followed by an explosive, and followed by an explosive. And here we have an indecisive, and then a similar scenario then with the first zone that we identified is this is an quote-unquote explosive candle. The first rule is met. Well, look at the body, or you could say it's a decisive candle. Look at the body range ratio. but it's not abnormally bigger, so it can be caused by retailers. So that's why everything that can be caused by retailers, I can put in the base. The next candle, indecisive candle, and then I have a decisive candle. So I have clearly again here 1, 2, 3, 4 candles in the base. I draw the wider version here as well. Proximal distal line, my yellow box to identify the imbalance, and then I have my second supply zone. Now I continue higher, 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 and immediately I see another supply zone, because look at this. This is, well, here you have a big explosive candle. You have here decisive / explosive candle. Yes, it's not abnormally bigger than the previous candles, but the entire move here clearly decisive / explosive, real explosive, followed by another explosive, is a nice leg out. Then let's look if we can find a base. Indecisive, indecisive. And look at this tiny candle, another manipulative candle. This is clearly not caused by institution. This is caused by retailers. So that's why we can incorporate that in the base. Again, indecisive, 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 decisive. So we have another inverted U shape, a rally base drop. We draw the wider version here as well. And we can proximal and distal line wrap a yellow box around it to identify the imbalance, and we have another supply zone. All right, now we identify the supply zone. Let's start to identify demand zones. We again start at current price, go down and left, and we already see here explosive, followed by another explosive, and here we have a clear indecisive candle in the base, and here the leg in is an explosive candle, can be an explosive candle or decisive candle, but here clear base with one indecisive candle. I draw my zone, proximal and distal line, and yellow box as usual to identify the imbalance, and I've drawn my zone. I continue to go down and left, never cut candles, go to the bottom of that pivot, draw a horizontal line so I can go all the way to the left. Here, I'm here. I still don't have any zone here. I continue all the way to the bottom of this pivot, and I continue to go left. Look at this. It's hard to find here any zone. There is no real base. These are all decisive candles. And now here we can draw. Here I see this is an explosive candle followed by another explosive candle. It's clearly abnormally bigger, and also look at the body range ratio. Another nice manipulative candle followed by here indecisive, manipulative candle, small, look at the size, just look at the size, and then we have here indecisive candle. So we have basically here a drop, base, rally. So we can draw our zone here. Fully rule-based, and this is really important. We are fully rule-based, fully mechanical, black and white here, ladies and gentlemen. The only way how we can become consistent, objective in our trading rules, and therefore we can become consistently profitable. Now we continue to go to the left. This has been touched. Remember, I cannot use this zone as a single base because it has been touched here. It's not fresh. We cover this later on in the course material. I continue to find a nice explosive candle, and the next explosive candle I have here. And then look at this entire area here, also really interesting. Clearly indecisive candle because of the size. Well,
here decisive versus, because of the size, indecisive, another indecisive, indecisive, decisive. So I can use this as a base as well, because look at the candles. There are a lot of manipulative candles, very small compared to the candles around it. We are surrounded by very explosive candle that can only be caused by institution. Again, proximal distal line, yellow box, and I identified a demand zone. Now, we identified a lot of demand zones, ladies and gentlemen. The question remains, the $1 million questions: which of them to trade, which one to choose? A question that I get very, very frequently. This is stuff that we will also cover later in the course. Until then, see you next time.